Welcome to Picks the Professor, the sports betting show brought to you by a real statistics professor. Jake, we are live here. It is Tuesday night, a little after 9 p.m. Eastern. We are covering games for Wednesday.
Yeah, the 20th.
Yeah, Wednesday, November 20th. Sorry,
There you go.
I can't hear what's going on through them, and it's like throwing me off. Did I do something
Part
wrong?
of the live show stuff,
Part
right?
of live shows, right? Is we don't have the ability to do anything. But hey, as long as someone didn't say anything too stupid, right? Which I feel like was when we first started doing live shows. We did a few of these back a few years ago. That was my biggest fear. I was like, oh my god, am I going to say something stupid? Thankfully, we tend not to do that too much. We'll get going here shortly. Hopefully we get some more people coming through here into the chat. Again, remember, if you're watching this delayed, hop in the chat. If you can catch us live, you get the information a little bit sooner. But remember, if you're with us on Dub Club, you got this information an hour ago. And so who knows where maybe lines have already moved. Hopefully they haven't. That's never fun. We have a game to talk about specifically where we hope the line doesn't move when we get to that one. One big game here on Wednesday that we will cover shortly, and then two other picks that we like. So Jake, I guess it's time to do it. 2, 3, 4. I think the biggest thing is I got to figure out if I'm saying welcome before, like after which video now, because we got like too many video things. So recap, of course, from Monday. It's basically the same slide you saw yesterday. Monday was just kind of a ho-hum day. And Jake, we talked about it's kind of felt like that. We're just kind of waiting to break out of it here and get going again. It's just a matter of time. Hopefully that starts here tonight on Tuesday. So far, I know we got Villanova one-handedly.
Yep.
I don't know the rest of the games.
Sanford was close, and then they ended like the end of the half was not great. So hopefully the second half they pull through for us. I saw around halftime the live spread was like about what we got number wise. So I was kind of like, we're kind of up in the air on that. I hate talking about the games when it happened because somebody will comment, be like, they lost, and it's like, well, by the time you know it, like I know it too, right? Like hopefully they've covered, right? Well, but we'll see how it goes. Again, if you're looking for all the information, the Honor All Access package over on Dub Club, get your Discord chat. We had a great community of people over there, picks on every single sport, a chat for every single sport possible, predictions, probabilities, all sorts of goodies, summarized notes for all sorts of sports, and that link in the show description gives you half off your first month. Quick reminders about the model. It's player-based, so the ratings reflect the current roster. Early on in the season, that's a little bit not like it's a huge deal. I think it's a bigger deal like we talk about later in the season where it's like, yeah, I know that they rank like number whatever, but like their best players hurt. So like I don't think they're going to be that good right now or whatever it may be. Again, average grade 100 higher implies more points. So offenses want to be higher, defenses want to be lower. We are projecting an average game. One game is unknown. Jake, I say it every single show, right? Sports are weird. There's going to be weird results in college basketball. Thankfully, we don't lose more when we lose one by 30. Unfortunately, we also don't win more when we win one by 32. The variance in college basketball is through the roof. That's why we utilize larger sample sizes. That doesn't mean we have to play every single game. It just means we want to play more than a couple of nights. So again, you're just getting a taste here on this show for everything else. Again, all the other picks on Dub Club. Again, the model's going to give ABC, love, like, lean. We will choose the picks that we want to make. Beyond that, we're going to start off here with Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Penn State. Penn State laying a big number here, 14. Jake, this feels like a game, and I could be wrong, and I try not to say this too often, but it feels like a game that by the time it gets to about 3 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday, that the spread's going to be out to about 18. And I don't know if it will be or not, but this is, again, why we encourage you to be with us on Dub Club, because you get this instantly. I pull the lines. I make stuff, I get it as fast as I can. So it's not like lines have just come out, right? But lines will move, and line that 14, I think makes a big difference here. Not that 14 versus 15 is a huge difference, but versus 17, 18, 19 could be. That's where it could land up. Model says 21 on average. But again, we were talking about, right, the variability. 21, if that's what we think the average is, the probability it lands on 21 is like 4%. Right. And then the probability it lands on 20 is like another 4%, 19, another 4%, 18, another 4%. So we built up, or 3% maybe even. And so we've built up some edges there, but every point you're losing, you're losing, talking about a 10 or 15% difference. And I want to make sure I don't want to lose you viewer here if you're with us on this, but just make sure we understand that when we say that one game, we don't know what's going to happen. It means if we bet a similar game,
10 times by missing out on those 4 or 5 points, right? That's going to swing 1 or 2 of them. And that could be the difference again between being a winning better and a losing better. So we're like 14 with Penn State. The model says 21, thinks it should be a lot higher. We've seen a lot of these bigger spreads get bigger and bigger as we go overnight. So I don't know if it will or not. You never really know what the number will do, but it feels like this should be bigger than 14. Penn State has massive edges everywhere. Purdue, Fort Wayne, a fun team we liked to back a lot last year. They've got a decent offense, but defensively they're really lacking. This Penn State team might actually be kind of decent this year. So might be a year maybe they can kind of get over that hump and become a top 25 team here, which I know they haven't quite been able to do for the most part here of late. Jake, what's your thought?
Yeah, look, I love this Penn State team. I totally agree with where the sideline has them up there with the number 19 team. Like, the defense is incredible. Their offense is really fast. It's a lot of fun. They've got a really short average possession length because they find good shots quick and they take them. Mike Rhodes, great coach, came from VCU, brought a good chunk of VCU with him when he came. He's finally getting that defense rounded into shape, and this is one of the more offensively talented teams he's had, including his VCU teams. And Purdue Fort Wayne's played a bunch of nobodies, really. So the turnover number, their turnover forcing number is a lot higher than what it should be. So I think the defense is actually worse than what a lot of people out there reckon. I know Sideline's a player-based model, so it's probably got it closer, but I know like Ken Palm and several other ones have the defense rated a little bit higher, and I think that's not as true as it should be. I think they are much worse on that end. The offense is fairly good, but I think Penn State will absolutely lock them down, and I think this gets around 20-25. I mean, Cousin Jared's right. Penn State seems to be trying to put up triple digits every game, and I love it.
And someone out there, if I apologize if you're a Penn State fan and I mess this up, Jake, it feels like the last decade Penn State's been, they've been decent. They've been that like 8 or 9, 10 seed in the tournament, or they've not been very good and they've been a 5-win team in the Big Ten and they haven't, even come close. It's like they kind of are in that range, right? They haven't really been ever able to get to that. Like, can they be a top 4 seed, a top 5 seed? And like this year's team is like, oh, maybe this is the year. We think this team is really good. Look at that pace. You talked about it. They're number 11 in the country. They're getting up and down with a pretty decent offense. Probably the best offense we've seen from Penn State basketball.
Wow.
A long time. I don't know, maybe ever, who knows, right? I don't know my Penn State basketball history going back in the 70s, 80s, whatever. But yeah, you're going fast. You've got a good offense. And like you said, that defense can't be overlooked, right? It's still fantastic as well. So this Purdue Fort Wayne team, like we said, not bad. 127 overall, an above average college basketball team, but on the road, it might get ugly with Penn State. One of the other things here, and Cousin Jared mentioned it, right, on a mission to score 100 every game. The total in this game is around 160. The models got it pretty high as well. And part of the ability to cover a big number has to do with that, right? If you're playing a game against a Wagner, a Virginia, somebody like that, it's harder to cover a big number. Not impossible, but it's harder because the number of possessions you have is going to be cut by 10 or 15%. Whereas you play a fast team like Penn State, it's going to be increased by up to 10% potentially. And that means if there's 10 extra possessions, Penn State scores on 4 or 5 of them. Purdue Fort Wayne scores on 3 or 4 of them. Boom, there's an extra 2-3 points, right? That might be just enough to get us over the hump here, right? So that's an extra little bonus here that the model's considering, that it's not just that we think Penn State's the better team, but in a higher tempo game that should spread out the expected margin of victory here. So we've got Penn State winning this pretty big. So we're going to lay 14. But folks, remember, always shop around, get the best number. Again, let's talk about these lines moving. If you don't have an account there yet, BetUS, check them out. Again, we always encourage people to have at least 3 or 4 books. There should be, sometimes I find if you get too many more than that, for me personally, it's kind of hard and annoying to shop around too much. You don't want to overwhelm yourself, right? If you just have one book, right, you don't have to go to 6 right away. Sometimes it's a little bit too much, but at least make sure you have a few books out there to find the best of the number. Some of these college basketball numbers, Jake, I don't know if you've looked into it as much as I've seen it, but some of these college basketball numbers are at the same time are different from book to book by a point or a point and a half. Sometimes it's wild. Sometimes the number's the same, but the odds are different by 10, 15 cents, right? That stuff really matters. So make sure you have multiple accounts out there. Again, BetUS is a good one to have if you don't have them yet. They always have great deposit bonus specials. Illinois, Alabama, the game of the night, by far the best game. We talked yesterday about the kind of fun meter, that sideline that I've built, and it's a landslide in this one. The next most fun game. UC Davis, Grand Canyon, I think that kind of be an interesting game, but I think it's more only if you're a hardcore college basketball fan. The average fan is going to say this is mediocre basketball, right? But this is the game right here. Illinois and Alabama playing at a neutral-ish site. They're still playing in the state of Alabama. So we're giving Alabama a half home court edge because the travel and the fans will still be in their advantage. Won't be quite their arena, their same floor, their same backboard, their same locker rooms. That throws you off a little bit. But we're still giving Alabama a little bit of an edge here. Of course, it's going to be almost all Alabama fans there as they're still in their home state of Alabama, even though it's not their home gym. This one to me, when you look at it, the offenses and defenses for both of these teams are all good, not great, with one exception, of course, and that's Alabama's offense. And that's the difference maker in this game. Obviously, this should be a fun game, a lot of pace, both teams in the top 50 with regards to tempo. But we've got Alabama winning this by 7.5. We're going to lay 6.5. It just sneaks in there to a B grade pick. Jake, this is one where I always just, if I can avoid doing this pick on this show, I would. But this is by far the best game of the night, so I know everybody wants to hear about it. But I hate when I'm sitting here and look, I'm going to ask you your thoughts in a second so you can kind of formulate them here. I'm looking at this at 6.5, and I'm like, I'm laying 6.5. I'd lay 7. 7.5, it's tougher. That's exactly where the model says it should be. I hate chasing steam. We always talk about 7's kind of a pivot number. It's not really. It's not like football, right, where 7 matters a whole lot more. But there is a little bit more of a tendency once you get above that to stop fouling. It's a little bit harder. You need the fouls to start a little bit earlier to get that bigger. So 7 to me is kind of the number that I look at. So I hate doing this show here almost 24 hours before the game and giving out this pick because I'm terrified of where this number goes. If this number gets up to 7.5 or 8, I'm dreading that scenario. I hope it doesn't. I hope it stays at 6.5. You can find a 6.5 or a 7. To me, that's where the value is. That's where the B grade pick is. Jake, where's your thought on this game, and where's your thought on how high up you're playing this number? Are you comfortable at 7 or a 7.5, depending on if it gets a little bit bigger?
I think my limit's 8. I'm there because I want to win on 8. So 7.5 is probably the highest I'll play it because anytime you're getting around the double-digit mark, they're going to pull the punches. And I'm not a true believer in this Illinois team. If I'm honest, they've not really impressed. They've played nobody of value yet, and the last game out against Oakland was not a great performance from them. Oakland did well, but wasn't great from Illinois. And Bama, at some point, those threes are going to fall. They've got too many shooters out there. I don't know that Sears even hit a 3 against Purdue, and they still kept that game close with the bad shooting night. I mean, so if those start going, I think Illinois is in trouble because Illinois actually, as a percentage of the shots taken, takes more threes than Bama, and Bama's really good at guarding the three-point arc because high pressure defense that Nate puts out there. And that's good. I think they're going to be in a little bit of trouble, especially on the road in a gym you're not for, and not comfortable in because they've only played at home so far. This was his first time leaving. Where are they? Champaign? Is that where Illinois is? Yeah. First time leaving Champaign to go play, and you've got almost a full new team from last year, based on transfers and freshmen and all that. They've got some talent, and I think Illinois is going to make some noise in the Big Ten later on as they get more comfortable. But I don't think this is the game they show up.
Yeah, and like you talk about with a new team, it's sometimes tough to how quick that comes together. A team that potentially might finish the season a little bit stronger than starting the season. They had so many seniors and so many transfers in. I remember from these last couple of years where it was almost like a little bit of an all-star team of I don't want to say cast-offs, but just guys who had come from different places and had already used up a few of their years of eligibility. And then when that all starts to fall apart, then like you said, then you get a whole new team at that point because they've all graduated or lost their eligibility or whatever. And like you said, this Alabama team, much better than they've shown. They haven't looked good, and the model has penalized them for that, dropping to number 22. This is a team that preseason, I believe, was in Sideline's top 5. We were really high on them coming into the season, and obviously there's a lot of movement early in the year, but down to 22. So it's not like, obviously, again, like you said, Alabama hasn't been impressive. Nobody's been, we're not writing stories about how they've started off the season great. But the model's taking note of that and still thinks that this should be a little bit higher than it is. So again, we're going to lay 6.5 as the B grade. I'm laying 7. Jake, you're laying 7.5. We're not laying it above that. Hopefully you can get a good number. We hope this number sticks around. Again, I just never know what the number is going to do and when it's going to do it. But again, as you always talk about, shop around and at least try to find the best number possible on this one, on what is, again, the highlighted game of the night, the best game in college basketball. And just a reminder, if you want all those picks in Dub Club, you don't have to do the all access package. You have a picks only package, $19.99 per month. And again, you get everything before the show releases, about an hour before we even come on live, because then we got to deal with making the slides and getting everything ready and getting kids in bed and that sort of stuff. So you get it, and sometimes we come on the show and the number's already moved right when it's live. And so again, you can get all that over on Dub Club if you want to, in the picks only package, a little bit cheaper for price point, all the top plays and some promo codes there on screen and links in the show description. You get you some savings there if you want to hop in and support us there. We would greatly appreciate you checking that out. Last game, a late one, Jake, 11 p.m. Eastern. We've got some college basketball after dark. I can assure you I will not be watching a single play of this, or I hope I'm not. I hope I'm asleep.
Please don't.
You never know.
Please don't.
You never know how life's going to work, right? Especially with little ones around. But we've got the under as one of our top plays in this one. Jake, we're getting under 134. The model projects 123.5. We've got a 10-point difference. I think it was 9 points or higher differentials last year, hit it at a really good clip. And we talk a lot all season about how we tend to be on the little bit higher side on the overs for these better teams, for these better offenses, that the top offenses, the top handful, right, the top 10-ish, whatever it may be, offenses are just a little bit better than like the top 10 defenses. And so when you get those really good offenses, they're just, it's a little bit right skewed, a little bit out there. And so the books, consistently were missing this last year. And so it's kind of interesting to see a team like UCLA, a big name program, number 25 in the country, according to Sideline. And we've got a hard play to the under. Why is that? Because the number 1 rated defense in the country, according to Sideline, and an Idaho State team. Folks, we had a pick on Idaho State here last night. Again, recorded this on Tuesday. It was on Monday night. And I watched the second half of that game, and they went like 7 minutes with like 2 points. The game barely got into the 120s. It was ugly basketball. And that's what the model's saying. Like, they can play some defense, but they on offense just stink. Now, UCLA, again, offensively, not great for power 4, power 5, whatever we're calling it now, standards. At home, should have some success. But again, Idaho State can play some defense. We look at the pace of this. Look at the pace there, folks, on screen. Bottom, 60 teams in college basketball on how slow they are. This has all the recipes, all the makings for a recipe for a game that lands something like, 55 to 40 or something ugly. I don't know if it'll be that bad, but the model says the under is a great play. One of our top plays, under 134, A grade, as we've got it about 10 points lower. Jake, what do you love about this?
UCLA's defense and like the pace. I mean, it's not math, right? Like, you're not going to get a negative pace and a negative pace and get a positive pace out of it. Like, when you put them together, it's very, very slow, very, very, very not fun basketball to watch, especially for Idaho State. That offense is pitiful. UCLA, I'm interested to see what they do, because this is a Mick Cronin team, like the way exactly how he wants to draw it up. Top tier defense and an offense that does just enough. So I'm very curious how they get in with once they get into the Big Ten and the way those teams are playing. Like we just talked about Illinois and Purdue, those teams are fast, all offense. Defense is kind of a second thought. So I'm curious how this kind of comes through. And I think even Indiana's that way. Indiana's got a better defense. So I think UCLA is a very interesting team, and this is not a time to get your eyes on them, because it's going to be slow. It's going to be painful. They're going to be in control, and Idaho State has no reason to push the pace unless they just say, screw it, that didn't work, so let's just play at 1,000 miles an hour. They still don't have the talent on the offensive end to conquer this UCLA defense, because it is something to behold. It's very Tony Bennett, Virginia-esque defense. Like, it's really lock you down and make you take your sweet time to do anything.
And you mentioned, Idaho State playing later on in the Big Ten. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't? No, I mean, how long is it going to take before those jokes get old, right? But it just seems like anybody could play in any conference at this point. So why not? Why not put Idaho State in the Big Ten? But yeah, of course, UCLA kind of like becoming the prototypical Big Ten team, right? Slow pace, good defense, and the Pac-12 over the last couple of years had a little bit of everything. Had a few teams that really wanted to go up and down, and a few teams that wanted to slow it down. And usually will fit right in at home. I think what you're trying to say maybe is if I am up, for some reason, that this is a great game to have to help put me to sleep, because it's going to be so boring. It'll probably be on like Big Ten Plus or something, which nobody even gets. I feel like Big Ten Plus will be the new Pac-10, Pac-12 network joke, right? Like nobody even gets it. And of course, this being on like a Big Ten network or something is just still going to take some time to get used to, because that's not what you think of with a team from Idaho and California. But again, one of our top plays for the day. We have two other top plays that we already have, might have another one in the morning. So we get a bunch of picks, other games already sent out to everybody on Dub Club. Again, if you are interested and you are enjoying the show, we would appreciate your support. Check us out over on Dub Club. Again, that picks only package, you can get some good discounts there, and join us and hopefully making some money here, as we've had a great college football season. And we've got just so much more football to go, so much more basketball to go. Jake, parting words before we head out here on this lovely Tuesday night.
Look, I think I jinxed myself a few weeks ago when I said I can't wait for all the resume debates for college football playoff. And here I am with a fan of the team, with the first team out, and I'm looking at Indiana and Penn State and all that, and Texas and everybody ahead of them except for Oregon. Like, where's your win of value? And nobody has one. So I am the person that is mad at the committee because of the resume stuff. I just spoke it into existence a few weeks ago.
It is interesting. Oregon is one of the teams that my model's not even that high on, simply because they haven't looked great in some of their games against the competition that they should have done a little bit better on. That Wisconsin game was another example. Not to say that they aren't happy to escape with the win. They just got to win. They don't care. But, a team that is truly a top, contender should have been able to go in there and win that game by double digits instead of it being, they could have easily lost that game. And so it is really interesting. It's definitely a flawed season, but a lot of this I think will settle out. So if you're a college football fan of one of those teams, I think a lot of this is going to get settled in the field, starting with this Ohio State Indiana game, which Cousin Jared and I covered, of course, over on the College Football Show, if you have not seen that yet. But then with all the SEC teams playing, Texas A&M playing next weekend, all the conference championship games, we'll see where we land here in a few weeks with all that stuff. And of course, we've got midweek college football picks happening, as well as in college basketball every single day. Discussions of this stuff over on Discord if you want to join our all access package. So a lot of fun happening here at Picks with the Professor. Again, we do thank you so much for watching. We wish you the best of luck and remind you that you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.